Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So let's make some distinctions here, shall we? Because a lot of people are misled by propaganda. What does it mean for people to live in a country where they highlight that it's one nation under God, and that when someone's agnostic, that the most logical assumption is that there's a God, and that no one has ever proven otherwise? Scientists scramble for political reasons to try to come up with bogus theories, and they look like fools. Do you know how many scientists right now believe in God? So when we talk about the common good, when we talk about the right to protest for right, when we talk about character, I want to ask you all, do communists, do conservatives, Republicans, do agnostics, do polytheists, do atheists, do they have the basic decency to admit that the best people that's ever lived on this planet were monotheistic? So why would you hold your family back? Why would you act like some kind of stubborn ICE officer or something? Why would you act like a knucklehead about this? When they're talking about oligarchy, nobody says that they don't want Jesus to rule. Nobody says that. I've yet to hear people say, and I've watched many videos about this. What they're referring to is the King George types. They're referring to the Prince Humperdinck types. They're referring to the types of people who hire people to fume me and poison me and to change my voice. They're referring to the types of people in your government that are related to European royals, who through nepotism have been given positions of power. They're talking about the very people that they're following right now. Right now, you are following people who are key parts of a network of oligarchy. Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, you name it. Freemasons, corporate types, rich people, military officers, police chiefs. Right now, you are following the oppressor. They're talking about people like Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk, who have all kinds of money. And they're talking about European nobility and everyone like them. People from Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and everywhere on this planet where they did not establish their rule through justice or righteousness, but through mere flesh-based heritage and devious means. The means of people who have diabolical processes. I have established the throne in justice. And when we say liberty or justice for all, how many of you, when you were young, did you think they were talking about some kind of occult wordplay nonsense? And how many of you thought that they were talking about freedom? Freedom and justice for all. Well, I've established the throne in justice. And if you truly believe in freedom and justice for all, you believe that a democracy's natural trajectory, when done right, when done in a way that's fair and just and right, is to have some people who are more influential than others because of morality. And at this point, there's one person who's by far more righteous than everyone else, and that's me. Other people are so far behind me that no one will team up with me. That's how bad the gap is. Other people won't even point to me. They don't have the basic decency to admit by their actions that I've established the throne in righteousness. You have people who don't know what they're talking about saying that I sound entitled. When you're the only one who's the solution and other people won't admit it, it behooves you to point to yourself. Other people don't have the heart to point to me. So, what is the Constitution? What is the Declaration of Independence? What is democracy? They are all nothing without God. And for those of you who are not monotheistic, you cannot meet the burden of proof that someone from your philosophy has gone beyond a monotheistic person. And what is the pinnacle of righteousness? It's right there in Proverbs 34. Whose hands have gathered up the wind, the Spirit of God? Who holds the wind in his fists? New Living Translation. Who's established the throne in righteousness and justice? Proverbs 16:12. And conveyed the Spirit of God. And that's me. Everyone else relies on mere flesh-based might and the state and the mere American spirit like a coward, like a flesh-based worm. When they all have heard the saying, one nation under God, they reject God and accept the compartmentalization that only betas and worms and sissies accept. I have transcended everyone else. And their failure to follow me is their failure, not mine. If you were surrounded by the greatest warriors in history, do you think they would agree with the opposition view? Or they would agree with me, the top martial artist ever possible? And they would utterly despise the American government and the PSYOP units for changing my voice like a little bitch instead of addressing my arguments publicly. When we're supposed to have freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and freedom of religion. They've resorted to censorship because they're inferior. Thank you. Now keep in mind that we don't have to agree on everything to have some kind of collaboration. But even a child should be able to tell you that I, Christ, could never possibly betray God. I would never fall on anyone else. I would never play stupid. I would never neglect my duty to put a lamp on its stand and to point to myself. Now recently, Bernie Sanders made a speech. I guess it's part of his Fight Oligarchy tour. The main concern of the Democratic Party should be individual rights when we're looking at it in terms of secular thinking. That means addressing cancel culture, securing due process, what have you. That means the right for people to have housing, to have food, the right for them to live under a government that does a thorough analysis of the healthcare sector and secures healthcare and Social Security within reason. It means the rights for people to not be harassed by police while people play stupid about organized harassment with technology. They go on and on about how AI is a threat, how technology is a threat, but they refuse to acknowledge what is going on now. People are harassed, and it is perhaps the biggest threat to freedom of speech and to individual rights. Because if everyone's going to play stupid when someone says something very important and target them and fume them and poison them and harass them and taunt them and try to intimidate them and terrorize them, and law enforcement's going to help, various agencies are going to help for some kind of behind-the-scenes agenda, a Freemason-like agenda, in terms of secret orders where people get dressed up in silly outfits and pretend to be important, and they undermine the Constitution. When you look at it secularly, it's clear. With secular thinking, it's clear that individual rights should be the main priority of the Democratic Party. And it extends into the economy, into immigration and Social Security and healthcare and crime. Because the people are failing to organize effectively, the government is failing. If people looked up to the right people, we wouldn't have a failed country. Never in America's history did we see the majority of people looking up to the right person and willing to respond to God's commands. They aren't willing to respond by rallying to the right person and doing the right thing on the right path in the right state of mind. Many people are scatterbrained and nerdy, are leading people in a way that's faulty. It's one thing to do an interview, or to speak on something, or to speak to a crowd. It's another thing to try to fill the shoes of a leader. Nerds aren't true leaders. People who are merely craftsmen and nothing more. They don't just happen to have a craft, but that's all they are. No offense to them, but they are not true leaders. LGBT people have never presented a single logical leader. There's people who have insightful things to say and intelligent things to say. In order to advance society for the common good, we have to admit these things. We have to admit the English people aren't superior and their ways aren't superior. Just because you live in the Anglosphere doesn't mean you have to pretend that Freemason-like cultures are magically superior. As Prince Harry mocked them, arguably rightfully so, by making a devil symbol with his hands, the Baphomet symbol, the bullhorn symbol, what have you. Because the main people doing you wrong are people in suits. The main people doing you wrong are people with money. Also, they think that it's as simple as fuming me and changing the sound of my voice and hacking my phone and using YouTube to change my videos after the fact. They think it's that simple, and that magically you'll come to the conclusion that you should follow idiots instead of the most wise and most righteous person ever possible, which is me. So as we look at this situation, the elephant in the room, rather the falcon in the room, the great leopard in the room, the Lion of Judah in the room is me. Whether you're religious or not. Did you have to be religious when Martin Luther King was alive to follow him? No. So like Obama said, we can agree on some things and disagree on others. But ask yourself, when people aren't rallying to me, what are they doing instead? Are they effectively combating gangstalking? No. And they would be if they rallied to me. Are they effectively combating these deportations? No. And they would be if they were rallying to me. Are they insisting on sound and logical organization and peaceful debates and peaceful protests with a lot of people assigned to maintaining those protests as peaceful? No. Are they insisting on a sound plan? No. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off like lemmings, just following the misleaders off a cliff. So the most important thing you can get from the Bernie Sanders speeches is that other than me, there isn't a sound leader out there. There's just people talking. Some of the things they're saying are important, but they're just people talking. To truly come into the spirit of divine change, of morally precise change, of moving for the common good, you have to gather to me. And when you refuse, and I'm here in California, and they're trying to get me to leave, when you refuse, you have signed up for things that are much worse than oligarchy. Oligarchy in the negative sense of the word, because it touches on an idea of a divine monarchy. And only an idiot would prefer the rule of a corrupt government, right, of hundreds of corrupt idiots, instead of one righteous person. The oligarchy that they're complaining about is a bunch of privileged European idiots, a bunch of privileged American idiots, privileged racist white Jew and LGBT idiots, and token minority idiots, a bunch of rich idiots. That's what they're talking about. They are not talking about the top martial artist ever possible, because I'm the most wise person ever possible. What could they say? We are not equal. When you came into this world, were you the son of two doctors, one the most righteous brain surgeon that ever lived and humanitarian? No. Are you his namesake? No. Are you the top martial artist ever possible? No. Are you the most righteous and wise and romantic person? No. Are you the person who could say these things about himself and be taken seriously by everybody who's a serious person? No, that would be me. And when we don't get that correct, everything falls apart like it has been falling apart.